We start again. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first District 74 PR Lab. Excited to welcome you all for our session today. So our first PR Lab session, we're having this first session today where we'll be looking at branding, and then next week we will delve into Canva, creating those exciting posters. And like I did say, just let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. Hope you are excited by what we'll be doing over the next couple of months, because I'm definitely excited. Later on during the meeting, I will share in the chat a survey that I want to just undertake to just try and find out what more we can do for you, help you to grow in your PR and marketing. So you will see something coming up in the chat. There's just a little short survey that I just want to undertake. But I don't want to take up too much of the time. I know our facilitator is already in the room, and it is none other than a former PR for District 74. She might be known to some of you all. I can definitely attest the reason why I am actually sitting here is because of her. I know she doesn't know that. My first role in Toastmasters was actually as a VPPR, and she was the PRM at that moment, and I learned so much from her. And that is why, for me, I felt like for this session, I really wanted her to be the one to share all that information and knowledge about the Toastmasters branding. And with that being said, I would like to invite to our virtual stage our facilitator for today, Maud Nale.
Thank you very much to you, Madam PR Manager. Before we get started, can we confirm that I am audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Great. It's always an honor to be on the virtual stage, and equally an honor when we're talking about all things branding and PR, because it is my area of expertise and interest. And as Leah mentioned, I was a past PR manager right here in District 74, Southern Africa. Greetings, fellow leaders from Southern Africa and across the world. It's an absolute honor to be kicking off this PR lab with a very important subject as it relates to us in Toastmasters. It's all about all things PR, but you can be certain that even if you're not a VPPR, you'll certainly benefit a lot that can assist you on your journey in your personal and professional life. But for the sake of tonight, we're going to be focusing a lot about PR within the Toastmasters context. And today we're talking about all things brand alchemy, which is quite a big word. But before we get started, I'm very interested to know brand ambassadors and leaders from across the world. What are you expecting from the training today? You could have been anywhere, but you decided to be here. What are your expectations? And maybe we can use the chat box. I'll have a look at the chat box. I can't see the chats. Have I missed something, Madam PRM? Is the chat box available to me as well? PRM, am I still audible, Toastmasters?
Yes, yeah, audible. Sorry, I was the one who was muted. Yes, the chat is open. You should be able to see it, but otherwise I will be here to assist. So Janie has said, I'm hoping to understand a bit more about the duties and how to use the resources. Dan say expectation on how to find people interested in Toastmasters. Someone says, Pinky, I'm new to the role, looking forward to learning a lot. I'm a sponge.
So let me be honest with you, brand ambassadors, and I'm going to tell you in a few bits why I'm calling you that. I need to put out a disclaimer. I know that the session's in brand alchemy, learning about the Toastmasters brand and its identity. But for us to be able to understand the Toastmasters brand and identity, we have to go back to basics. We've got to go all the way to the beginning, because this word branding gets thrown around so much in recent days and years that I'm not really sure if you and I fully understand what branding is all about. So before we get to the Toastmasters branding and identity, which is the theme for tonight or for today, we're going to talk a lot about branding, and we'll bring in the elements of alchemy and then we will then discuss the Toastmasters branding and identity. Does that sound like a plan? I'm going to take it to mean yes, and I can see all the comments in the chat box. Do keep them coming. We'll have a question and answer at the end because I am timing myself to make sure that I keep it in time. So before we get started, Toastmasters, guests, friends, I would love to know from you, what is your understanding of the word branding? What is a brand? What is a brand in your understanding? And we can use the chat box. I'll read out the comments. I won't mention your name. What is your understanding of the word brand? It gets thrown around a lot. I am a brand, this brand, that brand. What, in your view, is the understanding of the word a brand? What is a brand? Okay, I see. Consistent image attached to a company or product. Okay, your unique signature. Maybe we can unpack that. What do you mean by unique signature? What one is identified with? Identity. The look and voice of the company or person. The way a company shows up. Great. Great. Okay, distinguishing factor from others, how to present yourself to the world. I like what I'm seeing in the comments. Today's going to be very interactive, brand ambassadors. So please stay with me for the entire session. I'd love to bring you into the conversation so that at the end, when we do talk about this branding alchemy and the Toastmasters brand, you can understand and be able to put all the puzzle pieces together. I've searched the internet and found a video that explains in very layman terms what a brand is all about. Let's listen in. It's less than 2 minutes.
Brands are all around us, but what's a brand? A brand is not a logo, corporate identity, marketing, or advertising. A brand guarantees a quality, evokes an emotion, instills a belonging. A brand is built on the elements of confidence, passion, action, security, and culture. Branding started with cattle, a stamp of ownership. Branding moved to being burned on wooden cases, a guarantee of good quality. Today, brands represent so much more. Brands share stories like YouTube. They share information like Google. They share the marketplace like eBay. And they share relationships like Facebook. Famed CEO Meg Whitman once said, "When people use your brand as a verb, that is remarkable." Look around you. Brands are everywhere, and they communicate with you on a personal level like never before. They say, "Use me, trust me, engage with me." What's your brand saying?
We can leave it there. So this video pretty much summarizes what a brand is all about. It's not just a logo. It mentioned all the things that a brand is. A brand, someone mentioned it in the chat box, a brand is a form of identity. A brand is a promise of value. It's this emotional connection that you and I have with a company, with the product, or with the service. It gives you a distinct feeling. It's what makes your product, your company, your service unique. And it's all about who you are, who we are, and why it matters. So all the comments that came through, we summed them up, and that is what a brand is all about. And so the word personal brand is another word that's also get thrown around. It's the exact same meaning. It's not just your name. It's not just Maud. It's who do you identify with when you hear the name Maud? What promise or what am I known for? Good or bad? When you think of me, what do you think about? What value do I give to the marketplace? And all of those together encompass a brand. So when you think of a personal brand, also do think or evoke that kind of emotion or those thoughts when you think about a brand. So if we have a brand, then what is branding? So brand is the root And branding is a word that comes from the root word of brand. I found another video yet on YouTube, which is a brand on its own. And listen into what this video talks about is what is branding. We'll leave it right there. Toastmasters, everything that we're going to speak about stems from that video. Branding is so much more than just the logo. It's this promise. There's a word that came there, especially towards the end, about relevance. When we as brands, or the brands that we interact with, deliver to our customers on the promises that we make, because remember, a brand is a promise. When we deliver on that promise, we stay relevant, and that's what keeps people coming back. When you think about the brands that you interact with, and if I was to ask you, why do you interact with that brand? Different reasons will come on the floor, but I'd love to think that one of the reasons you love those brands is because either the way you feel when you interact with that brand, when you use that brand, maybe it's the customer service. It's largely centered around the experience. And you keep them in business by continuously interacting with them, so they make sure that you are their number one. There was something in there that says organizations use their brand to communicate the benefits that they bring to you. So it's no more so much about the actual brand, but it's about what it can do for you. And that's going to be the cornerstone of our discussion. We've spoken about brand, what a brand is. We've now spoken about branding and the importance of creating that benefit in the mind of our customers. And that's what creates that alchemy, which is what we're going to be talking about in a little bit. There were, as the video was playing, I was writing down some words for myself. It spoke about how branding, a word is now a brand. How many times do you and I say, oh, what does this mean? I'll Google it. And it was in the video. Or you'll say, I'll WhatsApp you. I'll Uber to your place. Those brands have become so top of mind for you, and that's how they remain relevant in your mind, because they've created that benefit for you, and that is why they remain so relevant and top of mind. So we're going to use that as a precursor, brand ambassadors, friends, as we continue with our discussion on brand alchemy. And now we're going to shift the conversation to the Toastmasters brand, because now that we've spoken about branding, we're all here to speak about this within a Toastmasters context and how it all relates. A brand is a promise. We spoke about that when we kicked off this discussion. And now I'm going to tell you that the Toastmasters brand promise is the foundation of branding. Remember, we're talking about Toastmasters. So the Toastmasters brand promise, it's the foundation. It is the expected tangible benefit. So when you interact with the brand and we say we will do this, do we do what we say we will do? So what we say we will do for each member. So if we say we will do this for our member, do we do it? Remember, a promise is something that's very sacred. Do we keep our promises? So you and I, whether you're a club officer, a member, a district officer, an international officer, we each have a direct responsibility to represent and protect the brand. Of course, it's going to look different depending on whether you're a member, a club officer, etc. But you and I each have a direct responsibility to respect the brand and to keep and uphold the brand promise. On the next slide, I have the brand promise, but I'm going to ask us, and please don't Google it, as we would say. Don't cheat. What is the Toastmasters brand promise? Does anyone know without researching? What is the Toastmasters brand promise? I do have it on the next slide, so worry not. What is the Toastmasters brand promise? You're welcome to say, I have no idea if this is the first time you're hearing about it. What is the Toastmasters brand promise? Brand ambassadors? Anybody without Googling it? Okay, to build confident speakers. I see a question mark. Maybe you're asking. Toastmasters brand promise. To build confident speakers is very close. Let me give it to you. On the next slide, it is empowering individuals through personal and professional development. Who's hearing about that Toastmasters brand promise for the first time? Let me know in the chat box. I'd be interested to know. So, brand ambassadors, friends, in line with that brand promise of empowering individuals through personal and professional development, everyone involved in Toastmasters needs to make sure that everything we say and everything we do represents the Toastmasters brand. The best way to do that is to keep it consistent in its look, in its feel, and its messaging. And so from a brand perspective, it's very important to know that we're only as strong as our weakest club. Now, let me explain everything that I've said here. You are probably here as a brand ambassadors of VPPR. I call them that because you're responsible for upholding the brand. So if you think about a brand ambassador for a car brand, they represent the brand. You're representing the Toastmasters brand, and therefore you're a brand ambassador. So brand ambassadors, whatever you do and whatever you say, remember you are a Toastmaster. So whether people know you are a Toastmaster or not, we know that you are, and Toastmasters knows that you are a Toastmaster. And so everything, every touch point of the member experience needs to uphold that Toastmasters promise. So you need to ask yourself whether you remember a club officer, a district leader at any level of the Toastmasters experience, is what I'm doing and what I'm saying empowering individuals through personal and professional development. This is in the context of Toastmasters. And so, for example, you might think, I'm a VPE, I'm a learning and development manager. This doesn't apply to me. This certainly applies to you. Every time you put together that program for the club events, are you empowering your members through personal and professional development? If you're a district leader, in terms of your role and the execution of your role, are you empowering the areas, the divisions, and the district through personal and professional developments? If you're just a member, are you empowering your fellow members? It's part of the induction. I promise to empower my fellow members. Are you doing that? Or is it something that you've just said because it was part of the promise? And so Toastmasters, it's very important because the brand promise is the foundation of our journey in branding within the Toastmasters context, that we understand that when you make a promise, it's something that we hope you want to keep. Don't be known as someone, don't let your personal brand be someone. And in the Toastmasters context, what we say and what we do needs to always represent the Toastmasters brand. Of course, the look and feel and the messaging is super critical, but to bring it back to basics, it starts with our actions, and then it trickles down to what we're saying and how we're putting that all together. And so when we say we're as strong as our weakest club, if you see or come across a club that's perhaps not doing what they say they will do, or not representing the brand in a consistent way from a look and feel and messaging, it's okay to let them know in a positive and supportive learning environment. Maybe we're missing the mark on this and that, but letting them know how they can do it better, just as we do our evaluations in Toastmasters. So we're only as strong as our weakest club. It's great to see a club that's maybe not at home in the Toastmasters brand and you are, but if you know something and you don't share it, then you are evil, as they say, and you are not evil. So if you do see or come across something like that, do let them know, because ultimately as a group, we're judged as one, good or bad, and we are as strong as our weakest club. I'm now going to move on to the Toastmasters branding platform. So now we've spoken about the brand and what that is. We've spoken about branding and what that is. And then I've set the scene in terms of the Toastmasters brand promise, which forms the foundation of our journey in branding, especially for VPPRs, anyone who wants to learn about PR in the Toastmasters context, but also for us as members, as club officers, as district officers, and international officers. Now we're going to move on to the brand platform. This is equally important because if you know the brand, but you don't uphold the platform, which forms a large part of the look and feel and the messaging, then you're probably not going to get it right. You will not hit the mark on it. And so it's important that we discuss this as we continue on this conversation on brand alchemy. And we're going to zone in on 5 elements as it relates to the Toastmasters brand platform. We're going to speak about the tagline, the values, the promise, which I hope you remember because we've just spoken about it, the personality, as well as the Toastmasters voice and tone. Let's start with the tagline. Do we know what the Toastmasters tagline is before I go on to the next slide? Let's use the chat box, Toastmasters. We aim to make today very interactive so that I know that you're with me and you're not distracted, but for empowerment too. Some of us don't know the tagline. What's a tagline? There's a tagline. Some of the leaders did get the tagline correct, and it's in the chat box, and I have it on the screen. Toastmasters, where leaders are made. And this tagline, it's all about helping us convey our mission as Toastmasters, as well as our purpose. So someone might look at this and think, but we're all about communicating. Why does it say where leaders are made? Why is it not where speakers or public speakers are made or where communicators are made? This is because the foundation of public speaking stems from leadership. So if you're a leader, it's very important that you are a good communicator. But if you're not a very good communicator, you will develop those skills, and in return, you will become a better leader. And that is why our tagline leads more with where leaders are made and not where communicators are made. Ultimately, the two do work together, but the cornerstone of communication rests within leadership. Now we're going to move on to the Toastmasters core values. You would have seen these all over the place, but I know that there might probably be new Toastmasters who don't even know what our values are. Much like the company that you work for or the one that you own, you have values. Toastmasters is no different, and I have them there on the screen for us. Integrity, excellence, service, and respect. You will notice that they almost put in some form of a hierarchy of sorts, because our most important value as Toastmasters is integrity. If you're doing what you shouldn't be doing, or you're not doing it integriously, then ultimately the other values of excellence, service, and respect won't really carry much weight. So the greatest, they're all important, but the one that's extremely important, if we were to tier them, is definitely integrity, and then followed by the rest. You will hear in the Toastmasters streets or corridors, they will use the word RISE to describe them, starting with respect, integrity, service, and excellence. But in terms of the order, it's integrity first, followed by excellence, service, and then respect. And these values, much like the values in the organization that you work for or the one that you own, they are at the core of us as Toastmasters. Much like you as a person, you're driven by your values. So if something that happens or something has happened to you, or you see something that doesn't resonate with your values, you probably wouldn't follow that thing or align yourself with it. And it's probably the same with us as Toastmasters. It's a means of guiding and evaluating us as a business, or us as our operations as Toastmasters, our planning, and our vision for the future. So if anyone was to ask you, what are the Toastmasters values, you can think about RISE, which is respect, integrity, service, as well as excellence. The brand promise, we spoke about it previously, and I'm going to mention it again. It's all about empowering individuals through personal and professional development. And this has its center in members. All aspects of growth as relating to our members centers from our promise. And so every time you interact with the Toastmasters brand, always ask yourself, is what I'm doing empowering individuals through personal and professional development? And if it is, great, but if it's not, then you're probably breaking a very important promise, and that is the Toastmasters promise. The Toastmasters personality, these are three words that come to mind when we think about the Toastmasters personality. It's all about leadership, it's all about dedication, and it's all about empowerment. And these reflect the organization, how the organization interacts with audience at every touch point of the experience. And so, yes, our tagline is where leaders are made, and that's where the leadership comes from. The dedication speaks to one of our values relating into excellence, and empowerment stems from our brand promise. And together, this is the Toastmasters personality, which is all centered around the customer experience at various touch points. Then I'm going to get to the Toastmasters branding platform as it relates to the voice and relates to the tone. The voice of Toastmasters is one of confidence and one of compassion. It's clear, yet respectful. It is friendly, yet also professional. And so you'll find in different scenarios, brand ambassadors, there'll be times when you really have to be confident. Maybe you're speaking on stage, or you're wanting to motivate a team, your exco team, if you're one of the club officers. But there's certain times when you have to show compassion. Maybe you have a new member who has dealing with a certain challenge, or they're starting on their journey and they're really nervous. Compassion and confidence can coexist. You just need to use them differently depending on the scenario. Sometimes it's clear and respectful. Again, those two can coexist, different scenarios. There are times when we can be very friendly, but there are other times when we need to be extremely professional. Those two can coexist. We would use them in different, one would use them in different settings. And then when it comes to the tone of the brand, Toastmasters brand, it's positive, it's upbeat, it's enthusiastic. We say in Toastmasters, if it's not fun, it's not Toastmasters. So that's the positive, upbeat, enthusiastic energy that we talk about. It is serious. So for example, we're presenting today, it's a serious occasion or serious event. I would love for you to take me seriously, but I don't want to be so uptight that you leave feeling, oh, she was a little bit uptight. And so when it's necessary, we can be serious, but we try our best to be positive, upbeat, enthusiastic, involve our audience where possible, so that we're exchanging ideas. And that is there where it says it is open to exchange. So that leaders is the tagline, the promise. Let me go back a bit. It's the tagline, the values, the promise, the personality, the voice, as well as the tone. I went through it really, really quickly, but you're welcome to ask any questions if you need to. This summarizes everything that relates to the Toastmasters voice and tone. You're welcome to ask questions in the chat box, and we will address them as we go along, but definitely at the end, so don't you worry. These are some of the words that come to mind when we think of the Toastmasters voice and tone. And these are the words that you and I are encouraged to use when we communicate to our audiences, whether internally in terms of our members, externally our prospective members. Look at some of the words that come to mind there. Respectful, friendly, professional, universally understandable. That's extremely important. Since the pandemic, at least, a lot of us have attracted members who are outside of our geographical area. So maybe they're from the continent or from across the world, or you're part of a global club. So it's very important when you communicate, especially if you're the VPPR, that your communication is universally understandable. So it can even be in the way that you write, in the way that you speak. There's certain places where, for example, UK English and American English is somewhat different. It's not very vastly different, but it is, especially the spelling. So you want to make sure that if you're from a branch or a club that has members from outside of your geographical area, that your communication is always universally understandable. It's warm, it's internationally friendly, it's clear, and it's very, very succinct, which means it's direct and it's to the point. Brand ambassadors, we've spoken about a lot, and I now want to throw a question to you, because remember, it's open to exchange. What do you think about writing like this? And I'd be happy to hear from you in the chat box. What do you think about writing like this? Don't worry, it's not a trick question. Read it in its literal sense. What do you think about writing like this, in line with what we've just discussed? Okay, I see someone saying shouting. What do you mean? You're shouting at me. Oh, capital letters it's loud. Capital letters is regarded as shouting. Absolutely. My mom, to give you an example, for many, many years would send us SMSs and WhatsApp messages, and she would write in caps. And I once called her and I said, Ma, I noticed that when you send your messages, you write in caps. And she said, oh, this is easy for me. Please, can I write in caps? And I said, Ma, you are shouting. And I showed her how to do it. And she said, oh, I can't really see this when it's called normal casing, as we would call it. I can't really see this. I prefer to write in caps. And I said, no, Ma, don't do what you are shouting. Maybe you can do it to us, but don't do it to the rest of the people. When you write in capital letters, brand ambassadors is considered as shouting. So imagine if you wrote a complete poster or any communication that you're sending out on behalf of Toastmasters and you put it all in caps. Yes, you are shouting. Please do not do it. You can use caps sparingly, but we as people, we don't read in caps. So please do not use caps in your entire communication. You can use it sparingly, maybe to accentuate or highlight a few words, but you wouldn't write your entire document in caps. Thank you to all the brand ambassadors who were able to spot that. We've spoken a lot about the Toastmasters branding platform. It is the foundation of our journey as brand ambassadors. You will not be able to produce communication on behalf of your club if you don't understand the brand. Think about the brands that you work for, or the brand that you work for, or the brand that you own. And the same way that it has its values, possibly a tagline, and all the things that bring it to life, the Toastmasters brand is no different. And so by us understanding and having this background information, it becomes a bit easier for us, or becomes easier for us to be able to now go into the meat of the discussion, which centers a lot around the Toastmaster from a visual point of view, now that we understand the brand. And in this section, brand ambassadors, Toastmasters friends, we're going to talk about 4 elements. If you are a VPPR and you have attended training, this will be hopefully not new to you, but we will go through it not in great detail as the training, because this is not a club officer training, but I will touch on it because it is important for us to now understand from a Toastmasters visual perspective, how do we present ourselves in terms of our messaging and our touch points of that member experience we spoke about earlier. We're going to touch on the logo, which will be the first one, the Toastmasters logo. We're going to talk about the colors. We're going to talk about the font, and then we're going to end on talking about the Toastmasters professional images. And leaders, friends, this is quite important for us to understand. And whilst they're called guidelines, they're there to guide us. Someone once said to me in the training a few years ago, I find that the Toastmasters guidelines are quite strict. Another person said, I find them to be quite boring. The honest truth is, if you think about the brands that you interact with, so I'm going to mention a few brands, whether you interact with them or not. There's McDonald's, there's Coca-Cola, there's Apple, there's Mercedes-Benz. If you think about those brands, they look the same, whether you find them in your country or in another country. You will never find McDonald's. McDonald's is primarily yellow. You're not going to find it green in that country, orange in that country, pink in that country, maybe black and white in that country. It always looks the same. Mercedes-Benz always has that logo that's on the front of the vehicle. You're not going to see it look differently in another car, or when they produce a new model, it looks differently in another car. Coca-Cola always being the same color, always being the same font. It never changes. Apple has the bite. You'll never see the full Apple on on that particular device. And the reason why they have that is because of the consistency. It's that promise that we spoke about earlier. So I want you to think about that when you think about the Toastmasters brand, and why it's important that you and I create communication that looks universally friendly. If I have the Toastmasters or I produce communication that looks one way and yours looks a different way and yours looks a different way, people are going to think, what is happening? Is this the same company? So whether a customer or a member or prospective member interacts with you in China, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, wherever they interact with you across Southern Africa in the world, they need to look and say, I know that is Toastmasters. And so these guidelines are there to guide you and I, but ultimately, the brand does belong to Toastmasters. You and I are we think of us as franchises. We each have franchises within the bigger company. And the bigger companies, Toastmasters International in this case, they give us these guidelines and say, look, these are the guidelines that we have in terms of implementing our brand, in terms of colors, fonts, use of logo, and the professional images. Please implement these, but there's some language that you can use to bring your stuff to life. But it's important that all our messaging from at least these 4 elements looks the same no matter where you are in the world. A lot of the stuff you're going to see here has been extracted from a very important book, the VPPRs. If you're hearing this for the first time, I would be very disappointed. It is called a brand manual. Much like an organization has something called a corporate identity manual, in Toastmasters, we have that, or CI manual. Toastmasters, we have that. It's called a brand manual. It guides us on how to implement the Toastmasters brand. I've extracted a lot of stuff from there. I'm not going to go in great detail as we do in the club officer training, but I am going to highlight it because it does form part of Toastmasters Branding Alchemy. Let's speak about the logo. Here on my screen, leaders, are different Toastmasters logos that you can use at different times within your within your communication. Here on the left-hand side, we've got the logo that's on its own. You're welcome to use it as a grayscale or white. All of this I've extracted from the brand manual. Here at the bottom, we have, I can't remember, these are called locks, I think, interlocks. I can't remember what they're called. So it's the logo with the website. You're welcome to use any of these that you're seeing on screen. And this one, I've put it here on the right on its own. We're currently celebrating as Toastmasters International, it's our 100th year anniversary. It kicked off in October. It will end around the middle of October, I think the 21st of October. So from now, when you are seeing this recording, up until at least the 20th of October, you're more than welcome to also use this logo on your communication. But from that 20th around there, October, depending on when you're seeing this recording, you will then need to revert to the original Toastmasters logo, which you can either use as a logo, you can use this interlock, or you can even use this one, which is called a word mark. In the brand manual, there are guidelines in terms of the usage of each, because there needs to be spacings, etc. I'm not going to go into that for the sake of this particular training, but it is in that brand manual. I just thought I'd show you this in terms of the various Toastmasters logos that you have at your disposal. I want to encourage you, brand ambassadors, anyone creating communication on behalf of Toastmasters in your different settings, it's advisable to include a logo of sort on your communication. Again, it helps create that consistency and people know who they're interacting with. Instead of just having words without having some form of logo, you're welcome to use any of the ones that you see on screen, noting that the one on your right-hand side can only be used up until October 2025. This is the logo usage, and I thought I'd put these next to each other strategically. On the left-hand side, you would have seen here, and this again, I've extracted from the brand manual. These all have a tick on how to use the Toastmasters logo. So for example, if you're from a district, you're welcome to have the Toastmasters logo and write the words here, but I'm going to get to something in a little bit. Any of these are acceptable, especially if you're a district and you say you want to create your own logo. However, I want us to zone in here on the right. I'm nervous to zoom in, but hopefully you can see it. All options on this side of the page are not permitted. Please, it's written there, please, please, please do not create a custom logo for your club, area, division, or district. Please do not. So here they've got the logo and they've written District 99. I'm going to show you an example of a logo that was created and what for us not to do, but let us go through each of these because I've seen scenarios of these in different clubs, areas, divisions, and districts. Please, brand ambassadors, do not put the logo in perspective. Please do not disproportionately scale it. Please do not change the proportion of the logo elements. Please do not change any element of the logo. Don't customize or create logos for clubs and districts. So I saw in a group recently, someone said they wanted to know where they can get the template to create a logo for their club. Please do not create a logo for your club. So the difference between this one and this one is you'll notice here Toastmasters International's name is there and the district name is at the bottom like separately as a standalone. Whereas here they've put it in the middle and they've taken out the Toastmasters name, the word lock that's in the middle, word mark that's in the middle. Please do not do that for your club or your area, division, or your district. Please don't change the logo colors. Please do not put the logo on colors that aren't aligned in the brand color palette, which I'll get to in terms of the brand color palette. Please don't use any copy slogans or images overlapping the logo. And lastly, please don't put a patterned glow behind the logo. Please, these things on the right, brand ambassadors and friends, please do not do them. Especially this one, I've seen it a lot, the customizing and creating of logos, and this one here, putting the logo on colors that aren't aligned with the brand color palette, and I'm going to get to it in a minute. I always love to include corporate clubs because across the world and in Southern Africa, we have the Toastmasters program, or we have organizations that have the Toastmasters program within the organization. Those clubs are called corporate clubs. For corporate clubs, they are permitted to put their company logo on the communication. So say, for example, we're creating posters. If you're a brand ambassador from a corporate club, you are permitted to add your company logo. But there's a big but. It may not be next to the Toastmasters one, always on opposite ends. So for example, if this, let's just say this portion was our poster, whatever we were creating, or let's use this portion because this is a great illustration. So this logo in a right, say this was your company logo. If you put the Toastmasters logo next to, this would be next to, it has to be on opposite ends. So if this was your company logo, you can put the Toastmasters logo there. Or if this was your company logo, you can put the Toastmasters logo there. Opposite, never next to each other. Please, brand ambassadors from corporate clubs, I've seen it. Please put it on the opposite end. In addition to that, please do not create a logo for your a poster and then you put your company logo and you don't put the Toastmasters logo. So the Toastmasters logo does take preference. It does need to be on the Toastmasters color palette though. I'm going to get to it briefly. Never together, always on opposite ends. We spoke about the logo in detail. This is now the Toastmasters color palette. Again, if you're a brand ambassador, we do go into this in great detail during the club officer training, but for the sake of all those who are not brand ambassadors, just like the company you work for or the one you own has colors, a color palette that they use, Toastmasters is no different. We have 3 main colors, they call primary colors, and then we have 2 secondary colors. So if you think about schooling, they call it primary school because it's the main school. Primary means main, and then secondary will be the school that comes after that. So secondary colors is the colors that come after the main colors. Do not make a secondary color a main color because secondary, you have to go to secondary school first before you go to, you have to go to primary school first. So you have to use the primary colors first, and then you use the secondary colors. So everything is listed for you there. Loyal blue, true maroon, and cool gray are our primary colors in Toastmasters. And our secondary colors is the cool gray as well as the happy yellow. You will notice that they have not listed white. You can use it. They haven't listed it. They have listed it on the back here at the 3rd bullet point. Black and whites can be used when designing materials for Toastmasters, but they are almost like tertiary colors. So for example, do not create a poster in black because you feel, yes, they said in the brand manual, we can use black. Your primary colors, loyal blue, true maroon, and cool gray. Then, for example, if you want to accentuate, you want to make your document look pretty, you can use a secondary color like happy yellow. You can also use white and black, but please use it sparingly. So for example, if you look at this slide that I have for you, it is a Toastmaster slide. I got it from the website. You'll notice I've accentuated some of the elements with the black, but the document itself is not in black. I've used a cool gray and I've just reduced the accents a little bit because of for sake of the presentation. Under each color is are codes that are listed there. Those codes all depend on the platform you are using to create your posters. So some of our brand ambassadors use Canva. In fact, a lot of them use Canva, and we're going to have a discussion about that next week. I look forward to seeing that facilitator introduce that to us. Some of us use PowerPoint, others of us use Adobe and every other design platform. It doesn't matter what platform you use. What does matter is that you use the correct shade of the color that you're using. So if you're using Loyal Blue, there is a code. If you're using PowerPoint, if you're using True Maroon, Cool Gray, Happy Yellow, depending on the platform, whether you're using Canva or you're using PowerPoint. I personally prefer Canva. It does need a little bit of work to understand it though. So please do come to the training session next week because that facilitator is going to unpack it in detail. But once you have this knowledge, understanding Canva is going to be a little bit easier for you because in this visual guidelines section, we talk about all the things that are necessary for you to understand before you even get started on Canva. So hex code, For those who use Canva, you will follow the hex code. Our facilitator will explain that next week. If you're using Adobe or PowerPoint, the CMYK code can work for you, or the RGB code. They have meanings to it. We won't go into it now. What's essential for us to know is that the primary colors are the main colors for your posters. So if I see a poster in white, I'm going to go into your DMs and I'm going to also give you feedback on how to make it better. You can use white, but try and gravitate towards these colors first. And if maybe you feel I absolutely have to make my poster in white because whatever reason, then you can, but it is not a primary color. And then you will accentuate your document. I'll show you some posters a little bit later of how you can accentuate your document using happy yellow. You can use white and you can also use black, but sparingly. And on the right-hand side, here's a note for my corporate clubs. Please do not use your company colors when you're interacting with the Toastmasters communication. You need to use the Toastmasters colors. And I'm going to now take us back now that I've spoken about that. Do you understand why this is a transgression in Toastmasters? Please don't put the logo on colors that aren't in the brand color palette. This is the Toastmasters brand color palette. So if you're from a company and your company is green and you put the Toastmasters logo on the green, it's not going to be correct. If your company is orange or yellow, it's not going to be. Remember that yellow is a secondary color. So we should not be creating posters in yellow. It is a secondary color. Corporate clubs, I hope that makes sense to you. We do unpack this in detail when we have our VPPR training. What I saw in the revised brand manual is that now we have something called gradient colors. I learned this from our PR manager a few days ago. We now have gradient colors to make your posters pop. And I tried it and it looked amazing. If you've never tried it before, I want to encourage you to give it a go. It's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe our PR manager can explain it better, but it has this way of making the color pop. And you're still keeping the primary color and the secondary color, but you're using a gradient, and our facilitator will talk about it next week, to bring your poster to life. And so whilst you're still keeping in line with the color, there are different codes that you can use to change the gradient. Greek to me, don't ask me what the gradient is, but when you try it, you'll be able to see it, and hopefully our PR manager, you can ask the facilitator to incorporate that next week to really bring your poster to life. I want to encourage you to try it. It just takes it to a whole new level. I did, and it looked amazing. So with our primary colors, they have the gradients. The secondary colors do not have the gradients. So please don't ask us, I want to make a poster in white and I want to use gradient colors. What can I do? There are no gradient colors for whites, because remember, whites, you can use it, but sparingly. However, the primary colors, you have the gradient. So the Loyal Blue has the gradients, the True Maroon has the gradients, and the Cool Gray has the gradients, because those are the three Toastmasters primary colors. Try it. Let me know how it goes. I'm excited to, I feel so terrible that I only saw this recently, but it is in the brand manual and it really will bring your posters to life. Now, brand ambassadors, we've spoken about the logo and we've spoken about the colors. We're now going to move on to Toastmasters font. Now, this one's also equally important as we create our communication. Much like in the company that you work for or the one that you own, it has its fonts that it uses. If you dare use another font, for example, in the company, you're probably going to get an email from HR or your branding department. We're not that strict. It is a guideline, but we are encouraged to uphold it, because I love to think of Toastmasters as, for example, the company that I work for. And I hope that you're thinking about it the same. And we do have our fonts, approved fonts in Toastmasters. Here on the screen is the first one that we have. We can use this one for our headlines and our subheadings. This particular font is called Gotham. Those who use Canva, Gotham is there. Those who use PowerPoint, Gotham is also there. So for your headlines and your subheadings, please make use of Gotham. And you'll notice there's different layers of Gotham depending on where you're using it. I wouldn't recommend you use Gotham Thin or Gotham Extra Light for the entire document. So play around with different layers or gradients, as they call them, of Gotham for your headlines to make your poster pop and bring it to life. If for some reason you don't want to use Gotham, you can use another one called Montserrat. My friends who have Canva, Montserrat is a font that's available to you. It looks almost identical to Gotham, so play around with it. Don't alternate between the two. You're either using Gotham or you're using Montserrat. They do look the same. There's different layers, almost not as much as this, for example, but there's semi-bold, there's classic of Montserrat. Play around with it, see which one works better for you. And that's for your headlines and for your subheadings. Then for your body copy. Now, I don't know if brand ambassadors understand the difference between a heading and a body copy. So for example, this is written Toastmasters fonts. That would be the heading. Myriad Pro would be a subheading. So there we can use Gotham. And then body copy is this information here where it says Myriad Pro is Toastmasters International Interface. That is the body copy. For the body copy, you can make use of Myriad Pro. This is especially for my colleagues who use PowerPoint only. Myriad Pro is there. Or you can also use a font that's called Source Sans 3. It used to be called Source Sans Pro. Maybe they've changed the name. You can, it's there. Source Sans Pro is similar in appearance to Myriad Pro and can be used. It's there on PowerPoint. If for some reason you don't have it, it's highly unlikely, but it's possible, then you can use Arial. But can you see? It says they are tertiary fonts. Much like tertiary school, you cannot skip primary and secondary and go straight to tertiary school. You have to go to primary, then you have to go to secondary, and then you have to go to tertiary. Well, not have to, but then you go to tertiary. So Arial is a tertiary color. Do not create your posters and use Arial fonts, please, brand ambassadors. Gotham, Myriad Pro, Source Sans Pro, Montserrat are all available, whether you're using Canva, PowerPoint, or any of the other platforms. Again, there's different layers of Myriad Pro, similar to all the other fonts that you're using. Corporate clubs, you are upholding the Toastmasters font in your marketing material, not in your company. So even though you say, I like our companies, it's easier for me, but it does not align to the Toastmasters brand. So let's try our best to align to the brand, even though we have the companies that we work for. Now, this is one of my favorites, and those brand ambassadors who've attended any of my training knows why. I took it straight from the brand manual because I don't want you to say, Maud, you are lying, you are making things up. I am not making anything up. I have seen so many things and it makes my hair cringe, brand ambassadors. So I've extracted this straight from the brand manual and I'm going to read it verbatim so that you do not say I am lying, and I'm going to start at the top. It says, the photography style should reflect the Toastmasters environment where people look engaged. People look engaged. People, brand ambassadors, not objects, not things. People look engaged, empowered, and supported as portrayed in meetings, presentations, speeches, and speech contests, etc. People. Do not put anything on your posters that is not a person or people. I have people arguing with me in the DMs, and then I whip out this because I can't. Sometimes I don't have the energy to argue about some things. People. Always ask yourself, am I using a picture of a person or people? And if the answer is no, please change that image. If you see something or someone else doing it, give them the feedback and show them how they can do it better. People, always, even if you're hosting a contest and you want to put a microphone, you stop and you ask yourself, this picture that I'm using, is it a picture of a person or is it a picture of people? And this includes you, if you are at district level, if you are creating posters for your area contest, the division contest, the district contest, please always have images of people. Second paragraph. Please, brand ambassadors, stay away from images that do not connect to the Toastmasters environment, such as those mainly or solely portraying landscapes, animals, children, food and food appliances, medicine, and architecture. So again, people ask me, yeah, but can this not work? What about this or what about that? Please stay away. Landscapes, it's a very broad topic. So it can be anything from grass to flowers to meadows, streams, valleys, rivers, mountains, all of that. Flowers, landscapes. Spring is around the corner, at least in the Southern Hemisphere. And I know spring day is on the 1st of September, and people are going to say, but Maud, it's spring day. Can't I put flowers? Our theme is spring has sprung or spring day. Ask yourself, is this a picture of someone looking engaged? No, it's a picture of a flower. Unfortunately, you're going to have to change that image. Animals, it's a no-brainer. Even the cartoon animals, like the Easter bunnies, when their time comes, please do not put that on your posters. Even if your theme is about Animal Day or Animal Week or animal safety, please, no animals brand ambassadors. Children, even cartoons, please don't. Food appliances. I know it says Toastmasters, but it's not the bread that goes in the machine or the machine that puts the bread and makes it brown. Please, no food appliances. Medicine and architecture. Architecture is buildings, structures, all that kind of thing. Please do not put them on your posters. Even if you put it as a background image and you make it transparent, please stay away. These do not connect to the Toastmasters environment. Paragraph 3. The use of cartoons, illustrations, digital art or clip art in materials created for clubs, areas, divisions, districts, and regions should only be used as secondary design elements used to express club meeting themes or to add seasonal flair to promotional materials. Now, I know they changed that because the previous version of the brand manual said we should stay away from it. I'd recommend you stay away from it, but the brand manual says you can use it, but it says as secondary design elements. So, for example, Christmas is also around the corner. The year is going very fast, and you might want to put Father Christmas on your poster. I'm recommending not, but the Toastmasters brand manual says as a secondary. Remember, there's primary and then there's secondary. So you must start with the primary images, which are of people looking engaged. And if you feel you want to add a flair, then you can add Father Christmas, for example, to your poster. But please don't make a poster and add Father Christmas. I saw a poster and they had Mickey Mouse on it. And I wanted to, but I just held myself back. Please, brand ambassadors, don't do that. The final paragraph, always make sure you have permission to use or reproduce any images and pictures utilized in your designs. Pictures protected by trademarks or copyrights should never be used without prior permission from the owner. This is very important, brand ambassadors. When you and I have access to platforms like Google and you're quickly looking for a picture and you go and you do a Google search and you say, oh, I like this picture, I'm going to put it on my poster. And you put it on and sometimes it has a watermark and you can't see it. Or maybe you put it out there on your social media platforms and the owner of that picture sees it. And then they come into your DMs and then they say they want to send you an email and then they put a lawsuit against you for using their picture without permission. We don't want you to get into trouble. So please don't use any pictures that you are not sure of. Rather use the Toastmasters ones if you are in doubt, or the ones that you take yourself. But if you're going to use pictures that you're going to find on Google that are copyrighted or trademarked, you do need to get other people's permission. I always advise Toastmasters that can be quite stressful because we don't really know always who owns what. So I always recommend to brand ambassadors that when they attend their club events, take pictures and use those pictures on your posters because those are people that are from your club. It's relatable. When a guest sees the poster and comes to your club virtually or in person and sees that, they say, oh, I saw her on the poster. Oh, so she's a member of your club. And it creates that relatability. then you don't have to deal with those issues about copyrighted images. Toastmasters does have images on the website. I can drop a link to how you get it. It's on the presentation here. Under the brand portal, you can find pictures. I do also recommend to brand ambassadors, try and make the pictures relatable to your audience. Remember, it's that relatability in line with the brand. So for example, if you're from a club with ladies only, don't put men on your posters and vice versa. If your club has more millennials, put people who are in line with that. So, and vice versa. If your club is, I don't know all the demographics that are out there, but if your club leans toward a certain demographic, try to get images that lean towards that. Better yet, use those images. Take images at your club events, even at an online meeting. Take a screen grab and use that to represent. So for example, if your club meets online, don't put images of people in person because that's not how you meet. You only meet online. If your club, much like my club, meets one online and one in person, when you're meeting online, put an online picture. When you're meeting in person, put an in-person picture, just so that people can be able to relate and put and make a correlation between the two. Corporate clubs, you're doing the same. You're not using your company images. Please don't use them, because not only will you be making a mistake on Toastmasters side, if your company sees that, you're going to get into trouble and we will not be able to help you, unfortunately. So please, let's try our best to adhere to that from a Toastmasters images and photography point of view. I've been scouting around. I was a PR manager. I'm going to be showing you some posters that I've seen over the years. A lot of them are 5 years old and older. If you're from one of these clubs, please don't take it personally. It's just for illustration purposes to tie everything that we've discussed and put it together. And I saw this poster. It was from my very good friend. They were trying to start a club and they put this, and I just went like this, like what I'm doing, and I just didn't know how to give her the feedback. And I said, my friend, you have transgressed on everything. Please pull that poster down. And she called me and she was fighting with me. And then eventually I told her why this poster cannot go out, please. She put it out, and then she got the feedback from someone else. And then she came back to me and she said, oh, I'm so sorry, you were right. Everything about this poster is not aligned with our Toastmasters brand ambassadors. Animals, the colors, the fonts, there's no Toastmasters logo on here, everything about this poster. So if you have a theme coming up that's about animals and you thought you'd get away with it, please don't. And don't say, oh, but no one's watching. We will see it. And it's not aligned with our Toastmasters brand. Please don't do it. These two also, for some reason, are not aligned. One of them does have the Toastmasters colors. The one on the right-hand side, it hits the mark, but it has transgressed on the hero, which is the image, no food on our posters. The one on the left, the fonts, the colors, the image, not aligned to the Toastmasters brand. And then here we have two that are somewhat aligned, but can be done better. Remember, we're looking for done and not perfect. The one on your left-hand side, the 4-Ways Toastmasters, doesn't have a logo. Could have done well with a logo. The one on the right-hand side, also great. The image is blurry. You don't want to put blurry images. Look for a picture that at least looks great. But what I like about it is it was in 2020, and that time we were meeting online, and it had an online image. So both of them are great, can be done better, but we're looking for stuff to be done, not necessarily perfect. Make sure when you create your posters, you're putting as much information that is relevant. Because remember, when people see your poster, they don't care what's in the body copy of your post. So if you're putting it on social media or on WhatsApp, people will take this poster and they will share it. Make sure that what they're sharing has all the information that's necessary, and always put some kind of contact details, whether it's a number or an email address, so that if a guest sees your comms and wants to join, they're able to make some kind of communication with you. These are also two posters that we saw that are very great. What I like about these two is people looking engaged, or a person, they don't have things on their posters. And can you see the one on the left, this one, how they have accentuated their document with that secondary color called happy yellow, and they've used white sparingly. They haven't only used white. So do take note of that. And look at this one. They attended a meeting and they put the meeting on their poster. It's the easiest. You won't have any stress of copyright, and the pictures will be much related to your audience. This one here on the right-hand side, I said people looking engaged. I know it's a contest, please don't put a contest, a microphone on your posters and tell me, but Maud, it's our contest. It is not aligned to the Toastmasters brand. Ambassadors, please, I am begging you. The contest season's almost about to open in November, and I'm going to see posters flying around. If I see something with a poster and you were at the session, I would be very disappointed, brand ambassadors. Please do not do it. These ones here, the one on the right-hand side, and let me speak on that with that one first, the invitation to the inauguration. Now, remember we spoke about the Toastmasters colors and not putting the logo on colors that are not aligned with the brand. And the one on the right-hand side has done just that. It's put the logo on the brand, and we don't have brown and gold in our branding colors. Please do not do it, brand ambassadors, coordinators, anyone that's creating any kind of posters, please don't do it. The one on the left-hand side, I spoke about the buildings, I spoke about architecture, and the hero image that they have in the background, they've made it transparent, but you can see it's a nice, beautiful, tall building. And unfortunately, architecture is not aligned with our brand, even if you're using it as a background image. I'm going to pause there. I've been speaking for quite a lot of time, showing you, brand ambassadors, different posters that I've seen over the years. Again, it's not to criticize, it's just to give you a visual idea of what I've seen, how it can be done better. But remember, done is better than perfect. It doesn't mean, though, that we must just put whatever we want to because, oh, what's it? It must just be done. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do make sure it's aligned with the Toastmasters brand. Now we're going to put everything together because the puzzle piece must come together. And now I'm going to say to you in terms of the brand alchemy that the brand, which is what we spoke about in the beginning, remember, it's that promise. It's not just the logo. It's the promise of value. It's the identity. It's what people think about when they interact with our brand. So the Toastmasters brand is all about that, what people think about our brand, the promise of empowering individuals through personal and professional development. And then it's about reputation. What do people think about us when they interact with us in the context of Toastmasters? So for example, you're a VPP or you deal with a lot of guests wanting to come and visit your club. When they send you a message, do you respond? Do you put out posters timelessly? Do you follow up that they're coming? Do they know where they need to be? Do they have the link to your meeting? All of that's reputation. You don't want to be known as a brand ambassador. Oh, that person, oh, they never respond. They at Toastmasters, because that's what they're going to say. At Toastmasters, they never respond. Yes, I've been trying to reach out to XYZ Club and the person never responds, or they always respond late. And it's little things like putting out stuff and you have, please leaders, I always say this to my team and they say, oh, you're so strict. Please check your work, please. So for example, if Friday is on the 14th and by mistake you say it's the 15th, oh, no one's going to notice. Yes, they will, because is it Friday the 14th or Saturday the 15th? All of that is reputation, the spelling, grammar, it all forms part of your reputation. You don't want to be known as a brand ambassador that puts out stuff that hasn't been checked, stuff that's not correct. Please check your work before you put it out, because even if you say you'll delete it, one person has at least seen it, and there's something now called footprint or algorithms or whatever they call it, and it will be seen by at least one person before you delete it. Don't let that happen to you. So that brand, Toastmasters brand, the promise of value and excellence and integrity and respect, plus the reputation of excellence and a reputation of service and a reputation that we put out there as clubs, as areas, as divisions, as districts, that will create the consistency, which is very important. So when someone sees your brand in the UK or they see it in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, anywhere in Southern Africa or across the world, they know that that is Toastmasters. And that's what alchemy. Alchemy is about coming together, bringing everything together. And the Toastmasters brand and its identity is incredibly important to bringing everything together so that we create that consistency in the mind of our audience. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring this to you, very different from the VPPR training. So I'm grateful that many of you came here, because if you thought you would get the normal VPPR training, absolutely not. It's important that we start from the foundation, brand ambassadors, and explain exactly what brand or branding is all about, because a lot of us think we understand it, but we don't. or we understand the Toastmasters colors and fonts and everything, but we don't understand why do we use it. And so we had to go back to basics and explain branding and brand and branding, the Toastmaster and from in a Toastmaster setting, and how everything comes together to create that alchemy. It's been an absolute honor bringing you this session today. It's always an honor to be on the stage, especially with all things PR, branding, and public relations. And now, Madam PR Manager, I'm going to pause there, hand back to you, and take any questions or comments from the audience. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much. I think maybe we can just unmute and give our facilitator Maud a rounding applause. Let me just hear us. Woo woo! Thank you so much. I like that. I like that. All right. So as she stated, I don't know if there are any questions. Maybe you can raise your virtual hand. I know there was some being shared in the chat. We tried to answer that. Okay, there's a hand there. You can unmute yourself, Mtabani.
Mute. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Maud. I hope I say your name correctly. That was such a brilliant presentation you gave. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. In line with everything that you just mentioned, the branding, brand identity, the fonts, I understand that everything has to speak in one voice. Now, when it comes to members, in terms of dress code, how are we expected to dress? Is there a dress code that we are expected to adhere to in order to be seen or depict an image of a Toastmaster?
Thank you so much for your question, Brand Ambassador, and for your feedback. I want to go to, okay. I want to go to a slide that I presented earlier, and this is all about the Toastmasters tone. Now, whilst this is not relating to dress code, it's somewhat linked to it. And let me know if you cannot see my slide. And this is all about branding, communication, but it's also about voice and tone. And one of the things that came through very strongly here was professional, respectful. I think those more relate to dress code, respectful and professional. And whilst at your company, I don't believe there's a dress code unless you work in an environment where there is one. We don't have a particular dress code at Toastmasters. But again, remember, brand is also about perception, or a large part of it. So the way that we come across as the way we speak and the way we dress is also equally important. So we're not at for example, when you attend an in-person meeting, we're not at a nightclub, for example. So we wouldn't dress like we're going to the club or we're going to a dinner out with friends. We try our best to be as professional as possible. That doesn't mean you have to wear a full suit and tie, or for ladies, dresses and coats. That doesn't mean that, but just make sure that the way you dress is respectable and it's also professional. They say dress the way you want to be addressed. And I do believe that's very strongly in the Toastmasters context, because how we dress is how we're perceived as people. You don't want to be perceived in a negative light. So if you earn the side of respectful, that will be appreciated. It's not a requirement though, but also very mindful of branding and how I position myself. So I would recommend respectful and professional, whatever that means to you. Hope I've answered your question. PR, over to you.
Yes. Any other question? You can just raise your hand. I've also shared in the chat just my short survey that I'd like to. Okay, Francois, you can unmute yourself, Francois.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this lovely training. My question is, we know they have a lot of clubs that have a particular focus on their meetings. For example, they have some who are focused on cooking and animals. And listening to what you said about, you can't have these things. If your club meeting is focused on food, then how can you make it appealing on the flyer for persons to attend your meetings? Thank you so much.
The only reason why I'm smiling is because I would love to visit the club that focuses on food. I didn't know we have that, but I think it adds
Yes.
to the nice mix. And what I love about Toastmasters is that every club is unique. It's got its own culture, its own geography, its own focus. And it's nice to know that there are clubs that are focused, they have a particular focus. That's very interesting to hear. In terms of a club that has a focus that's not aligned with the Toastmasters brand, I'd love to recommend to those clubs that they err on the side of people looking engaged. It's part of our brand manual. So even if your club is a club about food, the posters still need to depict people looking engaged. Even if they're looking engaged whilst, I don't know, eating or whatever it is they're doing, but people, Madame Francois, people looking engaged. I'm going to need a speaker where I say people looking engaged. I think I must join all the PR groups across the world because I've seen so many things over the years. And I say, please, people looking engaged. I hope I've answered your question. Always people, even if your club deviates, or maybe your club's a club for architects and they do all things architecture, still people looking engaged and maybe within the context of what your club is focused on. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. I will DM you one of the meetings that focus on food.
That's great. Thank you so
All right.
much. I see another hand is
We-
raised, Mfundo.
Mufundo.
Thank you so much, Mott, for the presentation. It's always great to hear from you. Mine is about the corporate clubs. I know you have mentioned keeping the Toastmasters identity. I belong to a corporate club. I tried to do the newsletter, for example, using Toastmasters images and all the brand requirements. And that was declined by our communications team because of the colors were not aligned to our corporate colors. So in that situation where there's a conflict between the corporate colors in terms of communication and the Toastmasters colors, how do we deal with that? Thank you.
That's a very nice, challenging question. I haven't received that scenario before, but thanks for bringing it to our attention because at least we know we have that. I think the same way your organization or your company is not comfortable with using the Toastmasters brand, I think that it's the same in the Toastmasters setting. So maybe what I can recommend in that scenario, and if there's any other leader from a corporate club who's had this kind of experience and how they've navigated it, I'd be keen to hear your insights, is I would rather than say you send stuff to your communications department because we do want to get their buy-in, but don't put it in the form of a poster, rather just send them the words. And let them put it out. So there's no Toastmasters logo. It's just come to our Toastmasters events, etc. Don't have a logo because once you have the Toastmasters logo, it's the brand now in jeopardy. So the same company that you work for, if you put it on our brand, that's why they have a problem with it. So rather just send them the words. Don't put anything on. Don't create a poster, and hopefully they can use your messaging without a poster. But if they create a poster and then they put your branding, then it's not allowed to align to the Toastmasters brand, and then it becomes a little bit of a challenge. Tricky one. Let's chat about this offline as well, because I'd be interested to also do some research and see what other corporate clubs are doing who have that challenge. But I'm grateful that you brought that to our attention. And as a corporate club team, we're going to see how we can support corporate clubs to navigate challenges like the one that you're experiencing. Thank you so much, Mfundo. That was a very great question. Appreciate it. Madam PR Manager, I think I don't see any other questions, but I think what I'm going to say as we close off is, in addition to being passionate about branding, and I want to address a comment that I got in the chat boxes. I love how you call us brand ambassadors. I mentioned this earlier. You are the custodians of the Toastmasters brand. So you need to keep all your club officers and your members honest about the brand. Don't let them do things that they shouldn't be doing. We're not policemen though, we are ambassadors. So you think about a car brand ambassador, they represent the core brand. You're the same, you represent the Toastmasters brand. So whether it's the way you dress, the way you look, the way you talk, the way you answer the WhatsApps, the speed with which you do it, every touch point, remember we say every touch point of the member experience needs to speak about our promise of empowering individuals through public and professional speaking. So yes, you are a brand ambassador, and I want you to own the title, give it life, give it wings, and truly represent it, so that when those members and those guests come into their club, they look at it and say, I feel like I belong in this club. I want to be part of it. Where do I sign up? So yes, brand ambassadors, one of the things I'm also passionate about is timekeeping. The session was 90 minutes, so we have less than 4 minutes to go. I do not want to be the facilitator who kicked us off and didn't respect time. So if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to stay behind after the session ends and answer those. I can also drop my contact details in the chat box, or you can reach out to our PR manager and she can forward those to you and engage. I'm very interested in that topic about the corporate clubs, because I'd love to be able to support them, especially if they're experiencing a challenge with getting the communication through their communications departments. Madam PR Manager, I'm going to hand over to you so that maybe we can do the closing if there's no other questions, but I will stay behind to answer any other questions that brand ambassadors may have. Maybe they're scared to speak on camera. I can be able to support them with that.
All right. No, thank you so much. More than thank you so much for this session. Definitely, I was also taking a lot of notes, and I hope our members have definitely learned and gotten some insights, so that when we do come back next week, you'll be building on the foundation that we have laid today, and you won't be then creating posters with logos that are sitting in the wrong place. And like she has told us, people, you will know the reason why we need to do that. So we'll be back here next week with the Canva training. So this one is just the beginning, because we thought, because we're just starting our PR lab, let us start with the beginners, and then later on, we will then move on to maybe a more advanced training. So we want to just make sure that everybody is on the same footing. So next week's session will be on the beginners, so just to get you started. Then as we move along, we'll try and make it more advanced. If you are more advanced and you want to learn some more advanced techniques, we'll definitely have something for you as the year progresses. And like was said before, in Toastmasters, we always say, if there was no picture, then it didn't happen. So I'd like to request if you could all just switch on your videos so that I could just take some pictures, just to know that indeed this meeting did happen just before we close. So okay, I can see some cameras going on. Okay, just waiting for the cameras to go on. And I hope you have all filled in our survey, just so that we can serve you better here at the PR Lab for this year. Okay, cameras are going on. So please fill that in. Let us know what we can do, what more things we can bring for you. Okay, let me start taking the pictures. Okay. So you just have to smile, because you don't know if I'm on your page yet. Okay. And okay. I am moving on to the next page. Hope you are smiling and ready. And I would say thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have taken the final picture. So
Leah, you're muted.
oh, oh, and I always say I'm an online Toastmaster, because that's when I joined. Forget to always unmute. So thank you so much, everybody. It's 7:30. And like I said, it was a 90-minute session. Hopefully we'll see you back here next week. And with that being said, I'll stop the recording.